finances and okay, thank you. And just dealing with finances in general, and even my own challenges. And so I can relate to a lot of people when you're dealing with challenges in life that you don't expect, and dealing with finances and money. And and it helps you to be creative and think in creative ways and opportunities to be able to grow your money, invest your money, and just continue learning. And so yeah, so with that said, why don't we get started? We're going to talk about cryptocurrency today. And if you can save the questions towards the end, that would be great. We'll have plenty of time for those questions. And then we'll go over a few more things as well. All right. 1 second here. All right. So demystifying cryptocurrency. Like I said, my name is John Savage. I'm a certified financial health counselor. I started to get into the cryptocurrency industry about 3 years ago. So it's been relatively new for me, 3.5 years ago. And it came across when I was doing a purchase at a store in California, actually, for some furniture. I talked to a gentleman, and he told me his buddy kept telling him, just put $100 in the Bitcoin, just put $100 in the Bitcoin. So we had a couple of conversations, and then it just piqued my interest because I had heard something about cryptocurrency, didn't understand it. And long story short, I was like, you know what? I don't know what he did or didn't do. He told me his friend is a millionaire. Now, obviously, he got Bitcoin when it was just like pennies on the dollar. But I wanted to understand more about blockchain and cryptocurrency in general. So that's what piqued my interest at the end of 2019, 2020. And then I just started doing more research and just trying to learn. And in that process, I got to learn a lot because I didn't know where to start. I was a little nervous about losing money, these 40-digit characters, and not understanding anything at all. So it piqued my interest, and just I started studying and just praying through it and learning. And yeah, it's been a lot to learn. It's a fast-paced industry, which we'll get into now. All right. So 1 second here. Okay. So these are some of the topics we're going to cover. Of course, what is cryptocurrency, the technology behind it called blockchain, and also why it was created, how it can benefit you, how it's being used in our society, and where I see us headed with the industry as a whole, and how you can get started too. So how blockchain got started. So there was actually a paper done and submitted by a pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008, actually. But the first Bitcoin was actually launched officially in 2009. And but there's some patents and whatnot. There was some research actually going back much further, as well as like into the 80s, if not earlier, into this type of technology. But obviously, because it's so complicated, you're dealing with fast transactions, it took time to really onboard and to bring to market. Bitcoin's a flagship coin, so a lot of people will say, you've heard probably Kevin O'Leary and some others on the news talk about it being the gold of cryptocurrency. If you haven't, you can go online. He'll talk more about it. Others have talked about it. They say, get it. There's so many others that talk about as well in the industry, in the financial industry, in the markets. But it's not the only one. But it is secure. It is something that's revolutionizing the way we do things in this world. And there's a limit of 21 million so in circulation, and it's almost done. So when that happens, it's expected for Bitcoin to continue to increase in value and go to another level, which some of these experts have suggested it'll go to 1 million. Others have suggested the founder of ARK, which is a financial firm, a large financial firm. She manages hundreds of billions of dollars. She suggests it's going to go anywhere from 500,000 or more per coin, but time will tell. The purpose behind it is blockchain. So that's the technology behind it. The purpose behind it is to decentralize things, to get us off of, we have the old antiquated system, which is called the fiat system, which the government controls. Back in 2013, it was actually costing an additional 12.5 cents approximately just to print $1. You can imagine, I talked to a gentleman out of Washington years ago. He was curious how I found his number. I found it somehow online, but he used to work in Washington. And he said the dollar is not what it used to be anymore. He said it's not worth very much at all. Right now, we're operating off of perceived value. And he was surprised that the United States is still operating the way we are to this day. So blockchain, that technology is decentralizing things, is putting it back in the hands of the people and allowing them to be able to interact more. And it's cutting costs. It's eliminating intermediaries. The intermediaries would be a lot of banks. The banking system, which we'll go into more a little bit, talking about SWIFT. It's an old system. It's over 50 years old. And the system it's very expensive, very costly. And as you've also heard with companies talking more about carbon footprints, I know you've heard that in the news. It's even talked about in politics right now. Well, it's very expensive. And so the way we're doing things right now, it doesn't add up. So we'll talk more about that. In 2010, Papa John. So that was the first official commercial transaction. There was a gentleman out of Florida, actually, ironically, out of Florida, who he said if someone can bring him a pizza and take the payment in cryptocurrency, he'll pay them 10,000 Bitcoin. And that was in 2010. Well, someone came up at the time that Bitcoin was equivalent of for $10,041. And that person today, I'm not sure what they're doing with it. I think they actually gave away most of the money. I don't know if he's giving away all of it, but he got rid of most of his Bitcoin, which is equivalent of over $683 million today. But it was a great experience to start off. It brought some attention to Papa John's, but there was also money given away as well. And then so the U.S. Marshals in 2023, they seized over $8.9 billion in Bitcoin. So you've heard of the Silk Road, or there's underground markets. As we all know, there's under the dark web. And so that's a real thing. And the government officials, the federal agents, they're always looking for ways to identify fraud, of course, right? And more so drug trafficking, things like that. Well, anybody who's in business, who's dealing with crime, many of them are very, very business-like. They're very savvy. They're not just some knockoff. They know exactly what they're doing. And obviously, they took an opportunity finding out about Bitcoin. They have their own experts, just like with a regular company. Like you have Wells Fargo, you have Bank of America, you have State Farm, any of those. They have their technology people. Same thing in crime. And so these people were able to use this to move money and transactions to pay people to commit crimes for them and to transact business under the radar of the government. 2021, so the president of El Salvador, a young man, he actually was the first country to actually adopt Bitcoin or cryptocurrency as the official currency for or alternative currency for their nation. And he did that as an alternative. Obviously, as many of us know, El Salvador went through a lot some years ago as far as their economy and their whole financial situation. But now being able to cut costs, move money faster, and lower accounts receivables, you can do that on the blockchain. So what is cryptocurrency? Simply try to simplify this as a digital form of currency that allows peer-to-peer money transfers, business transactions, and smart contracts. And smart contracts, in short, that's a way to put everything that's basically like a house, a title of a loan, contracts with attorneys, anything like that, you move it over from in the natural onto the blockchain. So we have where we can scan stuff in now. I'm sure many of you have done that. You file systems away. Well, the only thing about this is on a blockchain, it's very secure, it's very fast. You can process things in less time. Many times, as you know, taking time to do loans for homes and things like that can take more time to process. Well, if you can start integrating things and do it on the blockchain, you can do it faster, it's more secure, and it can't be manipulated. It has a timestamp, it's authenticated, and there's checks and balances within the blockchains, which they use different formats depending on the blockchain you want. Cryptography, which has been used for a long time. So that type of technology is used to basically encrypt the information. So if you're sending, say, a contract or you're sending funds to a person, well, no one's going to know who you are and what type of money you're sending, how much money, and who you're sending it to, because everything is encrypted on the blockchain. And again, it's privatized, it's secure, and it's super fast. There's transactions that can be done by the thousands within 2 to 3 seconds, as an example for XRP, or that's the cryptocurrency of Ripple, which some of you may have heard in the news with the SEC filing lawsuits against them. Blockchain technology is meant to be disruptive. Well, it's definitely disruptive. At first, it might not have been taken as seriously with the United States government, but now it is, and the Treasury is actually looking at it as well. And there's a lot of things that have already been done, which I believe I actually saw a document by one of the young senators online. I found it where they're already looking at adopting it. They're just trying to find the most efficient way to do it, because the government's got to be in control instead of the people being in control. So that's going to be interesting as they continue to roll out some laws. And as you've heard, recently, Kamala Harris as well as Trump have also mentioned about supporting and adopting blockchain, but it's going to be more than just saying it. It's got to be in the laws and written down where it's clarity. And that's what everybody's been talking about for the last 3 years with the Ripple case is clarity. Who benefits? Well, everyone can benefit. Because one, speed, there's people who need to transact business from one place to another, which I'll talk about in just a moment. It's super fast instead of waiting hours or days to have money, including maybe millions or hundreds of trillions of dollars, which actually are already being tested on the back end, but it's between different large financial institutions where it's happening right now. Reducing friction. So friction where things are being slowed down, it takes more energy and time to be able to process. You have different intermediaries that it goes between. Well, instead of having a clearing the bank and then the clearinghouse, and then you have the settlement company to settle and finalize the transaction, and then to the other bank for the other person, you don't have to worry about that anymore. With this, we clear out the middleman. The banking system, well, as alluded to earlier, it's an overhaul. So right now we're on the SWIFT system, like I mentioned earlier. So that's an older, antiquated system. It's more costly. And why wouldn't banks and other large financial institutions, including the stock market, companies are all on the stock market, they're all adopting this, and they've been doing it for the last several years, actually, even though people don't realize it. It saves them money. It reduces costs. It reduces their accounts receivable. Instead of there being delays, they get money faster in their account. Their books are built up sooner, and they can make more money because they also increase their profit margins by cutting costs. So the banking system definitely needs an overhaul, and I would say the people in general definitely need costs lowered or near eliminated when it comes to all types of banking fees. Back in 2008, 2009, there was a lot of fees that were processed. Hopefully this will be part of the elimination of that, but Bank of America had made over $32 billion in just fees alone that they charged for that year, and that was around the time of the crisis when I looked at that article. Cross-border payments. So what I was alluding to, so MoneyGram and Stellar Foundation. So a lot of these cryptocurrency or blockchain companies are actually nonprofits. I'm not going to say they're all nonprofits as far as exempt, but they're nonprofit organizations. And so MoneyGram, which we know, they move money all around the world in different currencies. Well, there can be delays, it can be costly. I've had before where when I was in college and at times when I was younger, my mom would send me money and it might cost her $25. I'm like, you didn't need to do that. But now you're going to be able to eliminate costs like that because the overhead is not going to be needed. Again, not having to have all these intermediaries in the middle. So things are going to be quick within seconds. It's going to save even the consumer money and MoneyGram. So that's going to be, so the Stellar Foundation, their cryptocurrency is called XLM. And the symbol is XLM. So I look at that as the silver, if you will, compared to Ethereum, which that's been in the news as well. JP Morgan, which I'll talk about more, they actually have invested heavily into that blockchain company. Secure transactions, again, they're very secure. You want to make sure your money goes exactly where it goes to, who it's intended to go to with the secure address, which is a long digit. And they use a lot of computations to do it quickly. Smart contracts, we talked about that earlier. Again, the smart contracts, you're doing business with somebody, you can move everything on the contract, verify it, validate it, send it to someone's wallet. They can be able to upload that document. So there's a lot happening, which I'll go a little more into as well. And it's accurate. So again, it can't be manipulated, and they're using high computations, these high, very fast calculations. So anybody who's a math expert, any of you on here, they're using some very high computations that are in split seconds where they can do, there's one company that can do supposedly about 1 million transactions per second. So just to put that in perspective. So current blockchain adoption. So this is just to give you a picture. I know many of you know these companies here, have seen these companies in every single sector of our society, basically. From hospitality, the Internet of Things. I'm sure many of you have smart homes. You have the devices hooked up to your phone, as well as to your thermostats in your home. Pretty interesting stuff. And so there is actually met with one of the executives of one of the companies, one of the founders, a real nice guy, but when they're doing, they have a device that actually will monitor not only where you can record video, whether it's mobile or in your home, but also monitoring temperature and other things as well. So that's a huge deal, obviously, as we move forward, and companies are always looking at identifying, managing inventory. Right now, what we have going on in the weather patterns, insurance companies, as you see on here, insurance companies, this is a big deal for them, having things on a blockchain. Things get destroyed, lost, well, they're able to be able to house and process a ton of information on a smart contract in seconds and be able to do it securely where it's protected and it's not going to be degraded over time anytime soon. Then you have healthcare, being able to monitor people. So there's a Ring device, which I'll show you here shortly, where you can monitor people's health. And it's not something that is, there's different devices out there. I've seen different things that you can ingest, and people are doing implants. This isn't what this is, but there's a lot of things as far as the blockchain, being able to secure people's information. I've talked to a lot of people when I deal with them, the company I've been working with, where they're told one thing and information is miscued, information is lost. That's why you have utilization review departments. When I worked for a third party administrator years ago, we had a department dedicated to making sure there weren't double codings, mistakes and errors for services they're being charged that weren't rendered, and so forth. So for healthcare, as we all know, it definitely needs to be fixed. And so having things on the blockchain that's fast, accurate, people getting what they need in less time is definitely needed. And then, of course, it cuts costs. And hopefully, with cutting those costs, we should have a good excuse and a reason to lower healthcare costs in different areas, in different ways, including getting information. And then banking. So banking, a lot of banking companies, a lot of them started out high net worth, working with a lot of high net worth clients, testing things out. There's a gentleman I read about an article a few years ago. So he actually had Dogecoin. He was an engineer. He had a $600,000 home built. It took some time, but his bank was able to do the transaction after some time where he actually paid for his home that was built in cryptocurrency. So that was a pretty interesting experience, I'm sure. So how you can get started? Well, one, just continue learning, just learn about it, just going online. When I started out, like I said, I didn't know where to go. So I asked questions. I'll ask questions that might seem random, but those randomness helped me to narrow my focus as I get more understanding. The more understanding I get, then I can decide which way I want to go, what as far as what I'm interested in. So continue learning. There's a ton of information out there. I will say, as you see here, it's rapidly evolving. You hear one thing, you can hear another thing tomorrow, literally, where things change. The market is pretty volatile right now. You have, of course, as they always, and it's not just a cryptocurrency, it's with the American dollar and so forth. That's why we had the Patriot Act, right? That was created years ago. And so always trying to find fraud, right? And protect against fraud and so forth. So right now we have over 3,000 or more different blockchains out there, companies, businesses, and so forth. But a lot of that's going to be eliminated eventually and narrowed down. So the government obviously is sifting through that right now. But also there's those who are within the industry who are cryptocurrency experts and developers who both talk about it and develop it, who are also highlighting and bringing scams and things like that to the market. So it is fast paced right now. There's people making money, but we haven't really just even touched the surface yet because it's more about what it's doing for our economy and bringing things together. There's a good side to it and not so good side. That's why I say learn, understand what you're getting into. There's different type of blockchains. So whether it's the Internet of Things, there's a metaverse I'm sure many of you've heard about. Snoop Dogg and others have on some of the metaverse blockchains, they have agreements where they have homes being built. They actually can sell them. So it's just pretty interesting. But so that's all going to be part of marketing. People will be able to do education online and interact with people, kind of like we're doing now, but it's going to be very different, a very virtual world. So the virtual reality thing you've seen, I think you guys may have seen, some of you might have seen, I think it was Ready, Set, Go, but it was one of the movies that came out, but everything was dealing with the virtual world. And that's actually literally where we're headed. Research. So continue to do your research, asking questions. There's people online where you can chat with them. A lot of people who get paid to sit here and research this all day, they make a lot of money. They're online on YouTube. And I'll mention a couple of those people here in a moment. And then test. So as you're going through the process, start small and test it out. That's what I did. Now, I will say I was working with a startup company we have trying to get going, and I wanted to do, I wanted to do more. I did not. I only did a few dollars literally, and I was testing out first with Binance. I was trying to find a company that was legit. So I spent hours just trying to figure it out. So I tested just a few dollars. I wanted to make sure it was legit, but I found out that, so I think his name is Zhang. He's in China. So he has a Chinese-based company, but then he has a license office here in San Francisco in the United States. Well, when I saw that information, I was like, okay, I'm going to use it. I'm going to set up an account and test it out. I had to do a few things. I had to figure out what was what. But I just took a few dollars, and then also they gave you some cryptocurrency as well, which we'll talk about. And what ended up happening is I just sat on it, spent another year to 2021, I think early. I looked in the account. I'm like, wait a second, that can't be right. And I'm like, man, I wish I would have done a few $100s, and it would have been a whole nother picture. But it's okay because I wanted to first make sure I didn't lose what I had or get myself in a situation where it was worse. And so, but it just proved and validated that, okay, this is something legit. And it was actually a blockchain called VeChain that is Chinese based, but a lot of companies like Walmart, I think Anderson Cooper or Cooper Enterprises, it's like a accounting company, and Gucci and so many other companies are actually using the technology to track their inventory in real time, timestamp it, know every single device, location, where it was, everything about it. They're using that technology, and that's the one I had invested in at the time. And they just know it takes time. There's a lot of FOMO going on, as they would say. I was like, what in the world is FOMO? So fear of missing out, of course. And so one of the things is there's going to be a lot of that. You're going to have people who they have their perspective and some of it's opinion. It's not necessarily based on knowledge or their experience, but then there's those who they're a wealth of information. So when I get a chance, I listen to them. There's one that I watch and I listen to. He actually used to work for the government. I don't know what all he used to do, but he has ways of finding information and he puts it out there. Pretty colorful in his speech sometimes, but he does give factual information. He's there not to give fluff or anything like that, but he does a good job as far as revealing information to people, just to educate them to be prepared and be equipped because where we're headed, we're not going to be able to stop it, but it's how do we navigate it in the right way. And then lastly, finding your niche. What is your niche? And what I mean by that is if you're into gaming, then study gaming. There's a great blockchain, Immutable X, where it's building a whole ecosystem for other gamings and people and developers to be able to build games and introduce all types of different tools on the platform. I like that one as well. And it hasn't even gotten started. It's a little over $1. It's fluctuated back and forth, $1.20 and $1.53 has been up over $2. And so, but that one, if you're into gaming, that would be one to look at. The metaverse coin, look at that one. There's others out there. Gala, they're working with Sony right now. There's something they're doing. They had to kind of work out some stuff with themselves and their team partners, but that could be very promising as well. Whatever they're doing with Sony, I think it's going to deal with movie productions as well as they deal a lot with gaming. Getting started. So in getting started, one, creating an account. So when I started, like I mentioned, I did Binance and then I did Coinbase. When I found out Brian Armstrong is the current CEO of the company, he navigates it very well. He's dealt with challenges and setbacks they've had and dealt with and on the platform. But I have to say overall, what I like about Coinbase is I can onboard and offboard the way I need to. And that's basically where you're moving crypto, converting it cash to another crypto, moving it to another wallet or transferring it to someone else's wallet. You can do NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens. So it's one of a kind. So what that means, and people have done paintings. Some of them may have heard about ape. There was one ape painting that was done, put on a platform on the NFT chain, and that went for like hundreds of millions of dollars. Just all kinds of crazy stuff is happening. But part of the reason that happened, people just went on a craze when there was a flux, and that was part of fear of missing out. People had to get all this stuff, and they were all excited about it. So anyway, Coinbase does a lot of those different things. You can do derivatives. So if you're good at derivatives and you have money to lose, or you can take higher risk, if you will, and you don't mind putting 10, 15, $50,000 or whatever you might have. Some people do millions. If you have that and you want to do it, Coinbase is a great platform to test a lot of things out. Now they will ask for your contact information. Again, part of the Patriot Act process, they'll ask for your front facing ID and back facing. You can do it on the camera or you can upload documents. They'll verify all your information, but they'll give you an option, whether it's a driver's license, whether it's another form of ID, and they'll tell you exactly what they need or your passport. And then security. So you have to put in your security passwords, codes, or a backup code, and you can set up an account on a mobile device, but also using your phone. So that way you can track activity, expenses, or using your card, which I'll talk about in a moment. I'll share that with you to do purchases. Get familiar. So CoinMarketCap is a great one that I found out about just listening to some people online. And CoinGecko is another great platform. I will tell you though, if you're looking at a blockchain technology in particular, and say you have a portfolio, some of you might, and if you do, you already know sometimes the numbers aren't exactly the same and how things are managed or updated on the platforms, but essentially things are because it's so rapid in real time. You're going to see the markets actually moving. But CoinMarketCap, just to give you an example, make sure I can go right back out of it. This is what this looks like. And so you can see here where you can sign up if you want. There's people who have a lot to say, a ton of knowledge, their wealth of information, or they just want to share their opinion about what they think. Here's the fear and greed index I was talking about, FOMO. So when it starts going up or it starts going down, you're going to watch the activity be conversely, right? And then you're going to see here some of the recent additions of new coins. A lot of these are people who are just coming up with coins. Some of them are maybe great opportunities, but you have to do your research, but they're higher risk when they're new because nobody knows anything about them. And then sometimes people will take names of somebody else, like Brian Armstrong. Well, Brian Armstrong, like I mentioned earlier, he is the CEO currently of Coinbase. And so this is Brian Armstrong. So people will take names, break them up, and then hope people will just start buying, thinking it's a coin by Brian Armstrong, and especially if they lack experience or they're just like, well, what if they'll just put money in it? They might make $200,000, $300,000, and then they get rid of the thing, and then that's kind of it, and it just flops, and they made their money and someone lost money. So you got to be careful about that. These articles here, top community articles, so updates. There's people always updating. They're really trying to educate people and let them know where they're at and just kind of opportunities they have. Let's see here. So I will get back out of that. And then YouTube videos. So I want to mention this real quick. Excuse me, my battery. We're almost done. Sorry about that. So YouTube videos, there's a ton of information. A lot of people love to talk about themselves, as I heard a long time ago. But then there's those who really want to educate. So these that I mentioned here, they focus on education, a lot on education. There's those who are very brilliant at this space. Like I said, they help with the technology developing it. They've been in this space for the last 10, 12 years. They're very well connected. But these people here, for example, Economic Ninja, he talks about a lot of things. He was affected by the 2008 crisis as well when he had real estate. And so he deals with real estate. He deals with cryptocurrency. He talks about XRP. Again, that's the cryptocurrency that allows you to onboard or transact on their blockchain, which is Ripple. But he talks about a lot dealing with money, gold and silver, investing your money with the times we're in now. He alerts you when things are going on with banks and just different situations that are happening in our economy in real time. Sometimes he might do videos 3, 4, 5 times in one day. But he's a legit source, a lot of wisdom, a lot of information. He even has courses if you want to learn more about that, just to get an idea about him. And I'll move pretty quickly. Oh, so this is who he is. So I won't stay on that, but that's him. He has a lot of people on the platform, so over 475,000. He was at one point until he started sharing certain information to educate people. He was doing, I guess, about $10 million, 10 million views per month total. And then it went down and he was throttled back, and he gave an actual example, but I won't go into that. But a really great guy from what I've seen. He's been consistent, upfront, sharing information as honest as he can be. Paul Barron. So Paul Barron, Coin Bureau, he gives a lot of updates and information in comparison on different coins and whatnot. He has his way of delivering information. You can take a look at him as well. And then Paul Barron, he has more of an interview style and asking questions. He's more a laid back gentleman. And it's like a whole news station, basically. So, so this is him here. Sometimes you see him right in the studio. So what he's doing here, he's talking about a wallet called Tangent, which I'm going to talk about because I've used that one as well. It's actually a great device. And again, we all have our perspective on everything. So those are some you can take a look at. And then small initial deposits. So again, I mentioned earlier when I started out, only invest just like in the stock market, only invest or any investment. It could be land, homes, everything. I have the same premise of conversation when I talk to people when I'm dealing with, okay, well, I want to go get in a home. Well, do you have emergency savings? Well, no. Well, have you looked at the overall risk of what type of insurance do you need to have right now? One of them was actually in Florida about 2 months ago. Friend was like, okay, we're ready to move things over. When I started asking questions, she said, we didn't have any conversation about any claims or risk, anything like that. So same thing when you're doing any type of investment with your time, your resource, energy, same thing with this. Only invest what you're willing to lose, kind of going back. Um, that's what I did. So learn to earn, Coinbase and crypto.com. So Coinbase, as I mentioned earlier, it's a great platform. Some people frustrated with it at times. They have a process. I had at one point where I had something happen on my account and I was just trying to get it updated, change my password. And this has been about a year and a half, about 2 years ago. It was a little bit of a headache, but finally, after emails and emails back and forth, because as you guys know, many of these companies now, to save time and reallocate assets, if you will, or their resources and their time and energy, you have to chat or email. And so, but I think they've improved their process since then. But they're a pretty seamless company. Now, they are an exchange, but they do give a lot of information, opportunities for you to learn and earn crypto. They'll tell you earn up to 30, 40, 50, $60. And I've been earning crypto with them here and there over the last 2.5, 3 years, I guess about 3 years now, where you can watch. Now they're giving you more tasks. They've changed it. We have more tasks. Crypto.com. So with both Coinbase and crypto, they have their own cards. I won't show you the back of the information on there, but they have their own cards. So you can actually do transactions. I've tested it many times and done it. And you actually earn crypto. And if you want to, you can convert that into what's called USDC. So not only you get to learn, you get to earn, but then you can convert the cat into real cash. So maybe if you need to make $10 and things are tight, Coinbase is one way to do it. You can learn, educate yourself, have an account set up. Doesn't take long. And yeah, same thing with crypto.com. So I have a card for them as well. I've used that, not as much. Many of you may have known they did a big advertising. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars for the arena that I believe used to be the Lakers in Los Angeles. Now it says crypto.com in big words. They're a great company. They're really good at marketing. Their whole design, the whole user interface and everything, the way it's laid out is seamless. So check them out as well. You can earn, do little tasks and earn what they have, like diamonds, and then there's some other tasks I believe updated recently, and then they have different type of cards. So both of these platforms, Visa has done a very great job because they are, as you probably saw earlier, one of the companies that have already been adopting blockchain technology. They first started with B2B. So now they've been moving obviously into directly or indirectly, depending on if you're a developer or whatnot, with Coinbase and crypto.com, where the everyday person like you and I can go and do transactions and earn crypto while also spending at the same time. Paraphrase and seed phrase. So you definitely want to make sure you have your phrases secured somewhere. They'll give you cards depending on the device, like you saw the Tangent earlier and you saw the Trezor earlier. They're both secure devices. Everybody has their preference of what they want, why they want it, and as far as how secure they think it is. But those seed phrases you do not want to lose. You don't want to have to reset everything or not be able to, as a gentleman. I think it was, I want to say like over $400 million. I don't know if he had one more chance to figure out his password. And the last I knew, he hadn't figured that password out. I'm sure there's a way of unhacking that or hacking that and undoing it, but he hadn't figured out how to get his hundreds of millions of dollars out because he literally forgot the password. So you don't want to lose your keys, your passwords, because you'll have 2 or 3 different ways of securing it. And these seed phrases, paraphrase, just so you know, they're tied to your device. Research. So research in the markets, just continue to learn about the markets and just doing your due diligence. It says here 65 big industries blockchains could transform. And there's a ton of them here. We saw some in healthcare, finance, travel, you name it. Not only are able to track weather more, but they're also able to track their inventory, their food, supplies, vehicles, anything you can think of as being tracked. Energy, being able to regulate energy, blockchain would be a huge opportunity for that. Steve Wozniak has a coin. I won't go into that, but I was doing some research and happened to find it. So I want to continue to look into that. I don't hear anything about it, But and some of these coins, just so you know, on that note, like with his, they're not just out there where, oh, I can just jump on Coinbase and get it. You might have to do a few more steps to get it and some more research to make sure you're putting your money in the right place. It might take 2 or 3 steps to do it. But that coin, I believe, he's also dealing with the energy company. Let's see here. And with anything, there's always risk. And the reason I bring that up because I saw, won't mention the senator's name, but there's been a couple in particular that highlight that they said that, this is just a lot of scams, a lot of crime, criminal activity going on. That's not the case. That's not what this was built for. Now, with that said, you're going to have criminals just like money laundering. That's been around for years. Catch me if you can. What did he do? He was making money out of nothing, right? He was actually not necessarily out of nothing. The guy was very skilled. He ended up working for the CIA. I don't know if he still does, but he was flying planes. He was doing all kinds of stuff, which was amazing. But he had a brilliant mind, but he was putting it to the wrong use. So when you hear about crypto as a scam, it's actually not a scam and it's not crypto. So again, blockchain technology, the crypto allows you to onboard to do transactions to invest in these companies as their value goes up and more people invest in it and they do some other things and opportunities. In our industry, the value goes up, you make money. It's just like with any other company, they're raising capital is what they're doing. And that's why they'll call them initial coin offering instead of an IPO, initial public offering, which is for the companies on the stock market. But now they're all integrating into the blockchain on the back end to be able to move money faster and cut their expenses, increase their profit margins. So risk is going to be really, it's going to really depend on you, how you manage that risk, what risks there are, what you're investing in, what you're looking at. Only do the things that are safe that you hear about that seem to be stable and you can legitimize their information and you can find them online and so forth. So real quick, so resources. So some of the tools, Coinbase, I've used them. The symbol above Coinbase here, this picture I had found, that's the XLM symbol. So they have the symbol, but then you have the words when you go to like a ticker symbol. So when you have Ford, like you see F for Ford on the stock market, or you have some of the other big companies like for Walmart, WMT, I believe it is, they all have like what's a ticker symbol. So it's just the same type thing, but different industry. Tangem. So Tangem, I like Tangem. So you saw that earlier on Paul Barron's page. So he was talking about that. One day, the founders, executives was actually doing a video online. He showed where they shot through it. Now, I don't know if you shoot up the whole thing if you're going to be able to use it, but where they shot through the card, it's very temperature resistant, so high heat as well as very extreme temperatures and cold. And the reason being because they want to have something that is robust, very durable, because you don't know where you'll be or what circumstance may go on. And if you have $100,000 on that card, then what ends up happening is that could be maybe your livelihood, that could be your last security if things are shutting down and you have ways to move your money, but something happens and just like a piece of paper, if you got something on the paper and it just easily wears away, then I don't know what to tell you. So Tangem did a very good job of high quality securing this thing, and also it is as EMP. We've been hearing about EMPs, so it's also supposed to protect against EMPs as well, and they're not the only one. So it's supposed to be shock proof. Great device. I like it. I've moved some things on back and forth to different places, and it happens pretty quickly. And you can watch it. You can even check to see the status of it. You got to have apps connected as well, but this is something that's really thin. It's just like the size of it's the same as this. They're all the size of a credit card. All right. Aura. So right now, the government just recently secured a contract with the company Aura. They didn't say how many troops that'll be covering, but they're testing it out. As you know, they always do. They have a huge budget that's really unlimited. I wish I had that budget. But this company here, it's over $68 million. The government just paid them to secure this contract in order to have these rings to monitor their troops in the field. So I don't know how many troops or how much, and there's a range as far as what they're paying between $299 and almost $400 per ring. Don't know the type of device, anything like that, but these are the devices they're going to be using to monitor their vitals, which on one hand, I can see this because they can take it off, but if they're out there in the field, some people have been lost, right? Or they have to go and recover a soldier, something happened in a certain place or can't find them. Well, if you're able to track them and track their vitals, that'll give you some insight about the location, where they're at, how they're doing, what they might need, and so forth in that location. And then if there's a group of them or if they got split up, being able to monitor them with this device can be very handy. And of course, again, these are very robust devices for a reason. And as you see here, you can use your HSA and FSA. So there's a lot to learn. So when I saw this, I was like, huh, I'm about to do some more digging. So everything that we're using from healthcare to there are IRA accounts where you can invest in gold and silver with crypto, move your money over from your 401k onto these other platforms. So just keep that in mind as well. Things are happening at a very rapid rate. And then Ledger, I had something go wrong, and it was during the time of the thunderstorm. So I won't go into where I have all my stuff, but I've used this one as well and tested it out. So I don't know if it was like a huge boom. The thunder was so bad. I moved to Texas here recently, and I noticed one day later on, I went to check it, and I'm like, wait a second, this isn't that old at all, and it wouldn't turn on. It's a great device. Otherwise, they're secure. They have had some hacks, I will say. They've even been tested by, I believe it's like the White Hat organization, where they purposely test things to see the vulnerabilities, because there's always vulnerabilities when you're developing something very complex. But you want to see to what degree those resources can be attacked. And so it's been a great company otherwise, but it's not my go-to anymore. That's just me personally. Elapal, that's very secure. It's actually airtight, so you can't just send signals through it. Again, shock-proof, temperature-proof, just all these other things as well. Really great device. And then Trezor, which you saw earlier. And then Digibit, they use a high security 5 algorithmic security chain. You can actually, it's free to use. I've been trying to ask them some questions on some things, but suppose you can use a blockchain integrating if you have developers, you have a team and company for notarizations on your software, to integrating for security, logging in for everybody has their fingerprint or eye print, however they want to do that, as well as security code as well. And it's basically, it's a script from Bitcoin, but it's much cheaper, it's faster, and it's very secure. So as we near the end, no turning back. So as I have the picture you see here, digital transformation, that's literally where we're at. Like I said, as we're speaking, things are happening in the industry all the way across the sea from Singapore. They do a lot of events in Singapore or in China, or not so much in China, but Singapore, throughout Europe. They do a lot in Florida there. And then also, so a lot of people there are talking about money. And then there's also, they moved there, but they do a lot of events. They had one recently in Dallas, Texas, about 20, 30 minutes from here. I didn't get to go to that one, but I was like, I so wanted to go. But there'll be some opportunities. You'll meet a lot of people from all over, social media influencers, people who are online. They're not just trying to be influencers, but they're literally educating. They're good at teaching and educating. You'll see some of them at some of these events traveling around the world. In California as well, Los Angeles, they'll have events, or in the Bay Area, New York, and other places. And this is continuously happening. So blockchain technology is here to stay. Like I said, it's already been happening. American Express has already been investing in it for some time and looking into it. Some of these companies have just been pretty quiet about it. Wells Fargo, they've been using it with certain high net worth clients. They've already been on the blockchain using it, adopting it. Bank of America, you name it. There's another bank that's really big. I had a situation where I was trying to move money from one account to another for our startup. And this was during the time of the whole banking crisis with some of the big banks like SVB and some others that were named out there. And we noticed where we didn't know where the money was. I talked to one company, they said, yeah, we don't see a transaction. I talked to the big bank where I was moving some money, and they said, yeah, we see where you did the transaction, but we don't see anything else. So I talked to the lady. I had to follow up. She asked some questions. She said, oh, we're doing something new. We're changing everything over basically on the back end. So we're changing all of our systems over. I said, is it blockchain? She said, I don't even know. Like, she didn't even know what it was. So I was like, huh. I said, I bet it could be doing blockchain and why stuff is missing and why she wasn't able to see certain things. Again, that was just my perspective on it. There's a lot's been happening with the banks and so forth. So when things are changing over, how do you do it when it's disruptive? They have their ways of doing it. So anyway, it's here to stay. It's going to be commonplace. So I worked with a startup company recently for a short time before I came to Texas. And as I was going to different locations, I noticed in the gas stations where They had some Bitcoin machines or cryptocurrency machines because you could use either, I believe it was Ethereum, you could use Bitcoin, that's one of the main ones, and then also you could use Litecoin. No one's really talking about Litecoin. Larry Lee created Litecoin. He stepped down from the company, but again, that was also basically a derivative off of Bitcoin. It's a lower carbon footprint. You have a few more transactions per second. It's a lot faster, and it's more efficient, and it's less costly. Still costs money, but it's less costly. But again, it hasn't gotten the attention that I would think it would get. And back in, I think it was 2022, where for a moment, someone either saw a script or it came up on Walmart's website where it showed Litecoin. And they brought it to their attention. All of a sudden, as they brought it online, it was gone. So I didn't get to see it. I don't know the script or the coding that they looked at, but it showed Litecoin in there and then it was removed. Again, these companies are already adopting, like I mentioned earlier. VeChain is one of the companies that Walmart is using internationally to track their inventory, to track their assets and their resources. Internet of Things, like I mentioned that earlier, the homes being connected, these smart homes, smart devices, everything is smart, right? Even we have robots being built right now. All of that's going to be connected on the Internet of Things. So you can track weather patterns. Right now, I know people are probably doing it to test with everything that's going on from Florida, North Carolina, where I went to school. I talked to someone the other day who said right down the road from there that they have power out for days. Well, all these things will be able to be monitored in real time and time stamped at the time that went out, what happened in that location that went out. So all this data, don't think they're not going to be able to track it because they're already doing it. It's just not on the mass scale yet, but it is happening. And then the question is now, what side are you going to find yourself on the divide as far as the digital divide goes in the next 2 to 5 years? Where are you going to find yourself? Even if you don't want to have anything to do with some of this stuff, we know about end times and things are happening there. You hear a lot of different things, right? Market of beast. All of these different things, you're going to be hearing a lot of information. The thing is educating yourself. And that's the thing that people perish for lack of knowledge. You've heard that word, right? And so having knowledge equips you to how to navigate where we're headed in this world. Well, with that said, I'm going to pause. Conclusion, I just want to say thank you for everybody's time. Thank you for the opportunity, Bill, Heather, Mara, and just the whole organization for allowing me to present. It was fun. And just want to say thank you. And anybody have any questions? Let's see here. Second. Turn it back over to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't see any questions. Hold on just a second. No.
Hello. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Ray from California. The presentation was great, John. I really appreciate the information. The only question I have is there any way that I can try to get a copy of the recording or some of the information that you shared, printed out or sent to me?
Sure. Yep. We'll make sure that happens. And what you guys can do, I can bring it back up here in a moment, but my email, I'll give it to you now. So my email is info@unwindfinancial.org, and I'll bring it back up so you all can see it. So if you have any questions, you want to get a copy of my book, there's a link. I can send that link to you as well. And then you can go to purchase the book. You can go to get the presentation. You can just email me. Not a problem.
Hey, John.
Yes.
Hi there. I just
Don't
wanted to
worry.
thank you for the information today and also to let you know that I pretty much have a local connection to you. I live in Morganton, North Carolina, right next door to Hickory, North Carolina, where you went
Oh,
to
okay.
college. So
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
great.
my oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say great information and I'm trying to learn a little bit about it and certainly appreciate the education, but I know I have a lot of personal work to do. So thank you.
Sure. Yeah, you're welcome. And yeah, it's I miss North Carolina. I got married, so that's a whole nother conversation. Out of college, my wife went to Stanford. I was in Hickory and met her through a family friend, and so that's why I left. So I was
Uh,
actually looking for work there. So, but I'll leave that for another table because I miss North Carolina.
Yeah, well, you would not have wanted to be here. Yeah, thank you. You would not have wanted to be here the first part of the month. And Burke County is not affected as severely as the other western counties, but it's pretty sad up here.
So Piedmont, I heard about Asheville the other day as well.
Yes, all of the western counties,
Okay.
Asheville, Haywood, Henderson, Avery County, Boone, I think Appalachian State up that way,
Yep.
really hard hit.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for letting me know.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
I'm sorry, somebody was about to say something. Any questions at all about anything or any other insights? Well, one thing I will say is just whether you have questions now or later, or want to go online, do some more research, I would encourage you to. It's a great opportunity. Oh, it's a great opportunity to learn and just to see where we're headed. Some things where we might not necessarily want to be, but there's going to be two sides to this thing that I see when it's all said and done. And a lot of the crypto, alluded to earlier, is going to go away eventually. As some people will call them bad actors, but the technology itself is good. It's how it's going to be used, just like with anything else. And again, it was created with the opportunity for it to have the peer-to-peer, being able to interact with family and friends, be able to send crypto without having an intermediary, as mentioned before, because it allows you to have more freedom to move around. But what's going to happen is some people are concerned about, even with the credit system, right? As you guys know, dealing with credit, that our information is sold all day long, but we just don't get paid for it, unless you're doing some affiliate program or something like that. And so this is a way to not only cut costs, create speed, efficiency, and it helps people every day who are having to pay so much for money, for just sending money, things like that. I talk to a lot of people, as I'm sure many of you do, who many of them specifically have been in like India, maybe some in Costa Rica, others like in Brazil or in Africa and different countries and throughout Africa. And one thing I notice is they will send money to their family. And sometimes it costs, but if they have a more efficient way of doing it, they will do it. Right now, there's another um, account that I have. It's called Dent. I don't really use it. I'm not in another country, but I have it just in case. Sometimes if it's even to help other people, that's just how I am. Me and my wife are like that, but it's called Dent. And so right now in Africa and other countries where they have that, you can actually send money to people. And I know there's other devices, some of you already know, that where you can send money to family or give them credits. So this is basically like a credit, but it's on the blockchain. So you can earn it and you can also share it with others. So they can be able to use their phone to call people.
Question. Are there
Yes,
any opportunities to invest in the stock market in cryptocurrency?
there are. And that's the thing. So when you hear, I don't know if any of you have heard about the Ripple case, you heard about Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC. So there's been a lot of debacle with that over the last 3 years now. So they're trying to look at, okay, what is a security and what is not a security? So right now they've been approving like a Ethereum spot ETF or futures. Futures is like more risky. The spot, it's not as risky, but there's all these different things. So there are opportunities right now. You can look up some for Ethereum. You can look up some for Ripple. I think they're about to come out. I don't know if it's out yet. As well as Bitcoin. There's BTCS. So there's some others out there, but they haven't rolled everything out yet. But everything is being moved on the back end. So what that's going to look like long term, I'm not sure yet, but we will find out as there's expected to be another black swan downturn. So, but yes, ma'am, there are to some degree.
I know that Fidelity has at least two funds. One is a Bitcoin fund, and the
Yep.
other one is an index fund that has like 10 different cryptocurrencies. But that index fund has not ever made any money. In fact, if you put your money in that, you just lose it. The Bitcoin fund has performed quite well.
Yeah, and so a lot of the people who have these companies and these firms that they've launched, they actually are going to push Bitcoin. A lot of them can afford $63,000 to $65,000. At one point, it was almost $70,000 per coin. They can afford that. The average person cannot afford. They can afford a fraction of it. But you're absolutely right. And one of the things is the market is so new and they're still dealing with regulations. Some companies are waiting. They might have stuff on the back end that you don't know about, but they're waiting to push a go and actually release things once there's more regulation in place. That's what a lot of companies are waiting on right now. So even a movement with those funds, like you mentioned, probably not going to see a lot until there's more regulation in place because they don't want to get slapped on the hand or be penalized. They were trying, I believe it was like $3 billion. They were trying to penalize Ripple, but a lot of retail investors have had that, and they really are just it was not really initial coin offering. They had one, but there was a whole other thing where certain people and the CEO have had money. The companies had it or the crypto, but that's a whole nother thing. And that's even questions about why they were doing that versus with Ethereum and with Bitcoin, who've been around and they've sold crypto as well. So right now there's a little fear of certain things. So until that's more hashed out right now, and that's why Trump and Kamala Harris have brought that up as well, because people are waiting for more answers.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I will say real quick, so I didn't put him on here. Digital asset investor, he's another one. So when it comes to like with some of the investments in the companies and the regulators, he's one that is very like a big mouthpiece on calling them out on Twitter. So you'll find some of these people, if you want to get like brief information, like not an overwhelming amount, be careful because you're going to have those who are trying to say, oh, buy Elon Musk coin, you're going to get 1,000 coins or XRP or Bitcoin. Just ignore all of those. You want to focus on those with the official accounts, which you're going to have like Brian Armstrong, his account. You're going to have digital asset investor, people like that. They will talk more about the investments as well as the regulators. He's big on that and giving you updates constantly about what's going on. I mean, he makes a living doing this every day. To give you an example.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, thank you very much
Yes,
for
ma'am.
all of the wonderful information, and thank you everybody for attending, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right. Thank you so much for attending, everybody. I thank you for the opportunity, and you guys have a blessed day and be safe out there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.